first Friday of the Good Morning Education Show in the month of March. Please, if you're connecting with us, wherever you're connecting with us, as you do connect with us, please tell us your name, your location, where you're streaming from. And of course, if you're a first time, if you're a first timer, you need to tell us that you're a first timer. So we appreciate you and celebrate you as you join us on the show. A shout out to our loyal tribe members for always being there. Good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining. And it promises to be. Please notice yes. Let me see. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We have yes, good morning. Thank you for joining. This is the Good Morning Education Show. And today we'll be talking about something very interesting. Talking about giving and getting the so on the Good Morning Education Show today, there are lots of things that are happening, especially from the world of the news, and we're going to review this one after the other. And we also want to say good morning to internet, because we had a very tough time yesterday trying to connect online. The network is still giving us its own mind. I believe we'll pull through at the end of the day. All right, I believe we'll pull through at the end of the day. So welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. And we'll go on a short break and we will be right back. Okay, so we're right back, and this is the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Etai, and of course, it's such a great delight to have you here this morning. We will be talking about some things from the news, and I think one of the news that catches my attention is the one about NECO, the National Exam Council. NECO seizes results of over 30,000 students in Niger, over 1 billion naira debt. NECO seizes results of over 30,000 students in Niger, that's Niger State, I believe, over 1 billion naira debt. Okay, so I'm really wondering what is happening in NECO. I was almost saying I'm really wondering what's happening in NECO State. Follow, good morning. You're looking sweet this Friday morning. Why did I not put on my glasses today? You decided to beat me to it, right?
Friday morning.
Fantastic. So today, we'll be talking about something interesting. But before then, I said we should run along to the news segment. And in the news, just like you can see on the screen, NECO seizes results of over 30,000 students in Niger, over 1 billion naira debt. What's your take on that?
When we saw the headline yesterday that the state was owing one of the things I said was it was sad for me to think that some students were going to bear the brunt of the ineptitude of the government. And then now seeing that a whole 30,000 students' results have been seized over this debt is, without even going into too much talk and words about, I'll just say the government should find a way to clear this mess and not deny these kids the future that they deserve. This is not in any way their fault. The government should do its part, get this result released, and let these children be able to move on with their lives.
But then 30,000 students equating 1 billion. I don't think it's the 30,000 students that really created 1 billion debt. I think the 30,000 students are the ransom for the.
Yeah, that's why I said without even going into too much talk, because if we have to break down how much the NECO fees is per child, definitely it's not 1 billion naira. It's definitely not. That's completely,
So
yeah.
most times, the state government probably have been promising to, just take care of the exams and then promissory notes, but not promissory action.
It could be that this
So
30,000 are the ones bearing the, like you said,
the
they're the
brunt.
ransom for the
But then
others that have.
that really is not meant to be. It's not fair,
So,
and it's something that needs to be looked into because some of these things are time sensitive. If you don't have your result in good time, um, decisions will be affected. Take for example, those students being affected. Maybe they are trying to process admission. Are you
yeah,
following me?
yeah.
You cannot process or complete your processing of admission without your results.
Both, yes.
And if you're not careful, eventually you'll get your results. But in some cases, the timing might actually affect your school of choice.
Yeah.
And that would be sad. That would be sad because these are people who don't have a say. They are like almost voiceless people. You know.
And depending on when the results are released, they may not even be able to use them anymore. They may not be able to use that result. And here we are talking about anxiety and depression in students. Apart from both anxiety and depression.
Interesting news today. JAM plans to build 6 billion naira new headquarters in central area Abuja. 6 billion naira. No, 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 no. What is JAM looking for? Are they competing with churches and cathedrals now? 6 billion.
Wow. This would have
If
been
if the
better
if
news.
the derivative of the economy, listen, the people that provide and produce the economy for JAM, right? There are people coming from the secondary school, they are going into the tertiary institution. There are people seeking to
Yeah.
gain admission. So normal thinking would be that, well, I don't think JAM should be called an enterprise, but the way they're acting now, they're like an enterprise. So the normal thing an enterprise should do is to give back or claw back, if you are not using the word give back. It should be towards the direction of research and how do you make sure that students are more academically inclined or academic excellence. We know that there are many students that do not have the opportunity to go into universities. Why? Because the university's capacity themselves is not enough. There are gap schools, gap years. They can raise grants. For come on, 6 billion a building. And let me
I was
tell
going
you,
to say this.
let me tell you why. Let me tell you why this is. And I think I've been quiet for so long the time. Let me tell you why this is possibly an interest because it's not that JAM doesn't deserve a building, and it's not that JAM shouldn't be modern. Please get me right. But I think that in the midst of everybody saying, JAM can actually sponsor some fantastic students on university scholarships.
Yeah.
That's rebuilding the ecosystem, showing that you believe in the system. What has JAM done to the average student? JAM has been an institution that has been there for years. When they make so much money, they plow back the money to the federal government. Why do we have to be? You see, the building, most times I've noticed something in scenarios like this, it favors vendors more than the sector. Because for you to build, you need to have contract.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And when you have contract, you have different people bidding, you have different people being awarded contract. And that's the way corruption starts. Because then you're talking about something that is vendor driven. Most of the vendors, they know. But how many of the active practitioners are in education that they know? They don't know that. And those ones are not in their system. So they want to keep the money with it. That's, sorry to say, it might be that I'm actually jumping to conclusion. But this is not it. Please say something about it.
Okay, if Jam was saying that they're putting 6 billion naira into building schools in the regions, in the geopolitical regions of the country, if they were saying that they were building CBT centers where they could have tutorials or stuff like that for the students, it would make a whole lot more sense. I'm wondering what is wrong with their present headquarters that a whole 6 billion naira is being directed into a headquarters, and just like you said, not even giving anything back to these children. So many, even if it was a university, they are putting this into, and a university that is going to work, that is going to be an avenue to absorb a number of students out there who do not have space into other universities. This would have been really newsworthy. This would have been something that would say, oh, for once, an organization of the government is doing something, is giving back to the people. We are feeling its impact. The only impact right now that it looks like JAMB is having is creating a lot of anxiety and depression amongst our students and even amongst parents. So if this was going into something that is building lives, not for us to look at the headquarters and say, oh, what an architectural masterpiece. This is nice. This is no, and not just enriching people who are rich already.
Mind you, the future of JAMB is not certain in the next few years because everybody's thinking that universities look. There are many things that people do that you just laugh. What makes JAMB think that they'll be as relevant as they are right now in the next few years? JAMB is losing the battle already to other countries. They're losing the battle. You don't need JAMB to get into a Canadian university. You don't need JAMB. So JAMB is not funding intelligence. They are not funding. They are funding the past. TOEFL, SAT, and all those exams are their competitors. You understand? Anyway, let's move on. Schools reopening. Some female students are pregnant. Educators.
Okay, okay. So, I'm wondering how does the pregnancy affect the schools reopening?
Good.
And I want to take the schools reopening to mean universities, the universities, not secondary schools. So in the universities, these are adults. These are adult females that are making decisions for themselves. How does being pregnant stop them from resuming school? How I really do not get what.
Well, I think it's more of an explanation from the fact that there's been a pandemic or there's been a lockdown and strike, and some students actually got busy with a new curriculum.
Yeah, they have
And
to move on with their lives. They have to move on with their lives and not wait forever. For before the lockdown, there was the ASU strike. There was a NASA strike. There was the SANU strike, and some of these people do not everybody would wait for the system to determine their lives for them. I kind of waited for the system, and so I was in school for what 9 years,
whoa,
and I kept waiting. There was this strike, there was that strike. The school was closed down, school was shut down, and I kept waiting. If I had known then that it was going to take so long, in the extra 5 years that I gave to my university education, I would have done something more productive. So if the students decided to go on with their lives, either to get married or not to get married and just have babies, well then. they're seeing the results, and this should help them make, um, hopefully, that before they make decisions next time and prolong things like strikes and all of that. Not that they don't have a right or that they're not entitled to ask for what they want, but they should put all of this into consideration and think about maybe some of those pregnancies might even have come from, might have come from rape, might have come from the girls being molested, things that were not really within their control. So they see that the decisions they make trickles down and has several other impacts.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Let's talk about the next one. How to tackle student abduction. This is coming from NUT and NAPTAN. And they're giving suggestions on how to tackle student abduction. Do you think they've been too quiet for this long? What's your take on that? And how do you think this is going to really drive anything?
I'm happy, one, they're finally finding their voice. And secondly, I'm hoping that their voice is saying the right things, that they're not making this political. I wanted to just score cheap points by saying, oh, yes, we also said something, and then use that to lobby for their own gain later. But this is something that education bodies in the country should have spoken about a long time ago. It's been happening very actively and more in the news for at least 7 years, and they had been quiet about it. They had said nothing about it. So if right now they are giving the government solutions or recommendations or saying, "Oh, this is how it can be done. That's how it should be done," and I think they should also not go beyond just giving the government its recommendations and do something, whatever they can do in all of their planning, whatever they can, they'll be able to self-sponsor, then they should do it and not just leave everything to the government. They should be seen to do their part, not just say something, but also to do something.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Now let's look at this. I look at this at the at the backdrop of what we said earlier. Samsung donates innovation up to Yaba Tech, promises to promote ICT. There you have it. Now listen again, listen again, listen again, listen again. Samsung donates innovation hub to Yaba Tech, promises to promote ICT. JAM to build and construct a new headquarters with 6 billion naira. Stalemate.
Oh, it's just clear. It's clear. It's clear where the priorities lie, where our thinking lies, where what the government places premium on, where it lies. It's just clear. This would have been better news to say maybe Samsung and Jam collaborate to donate
Yeah.
innovation hubs, because pulling their resources together would mean having more things to give or having more things to build, and the collaboration between them would have been fantastic to see that, oh, the students are, their lives are being more enriched. It shouldn't be an offense to be a Nigerian student in Nigeria. Things that other students outside of our climes, even in nearby smaller countries, are enjoying, should not become a wonder for Nigerian students. Up until now, there are still schools in this country, and even in cities like Ibadan, where you go in with a tab and you are like a wonder. The students are, whoa. And then we have the Jam saying the building and headquarters is 6 billion naira. I don't want to get angry.
You should get angry. We should get angry. Grace, good morning. Grace Amoka, good morning. Grace and I had a great time yesterday. We're together
Morning.
yesterday.
Oh.
Morning, Mr. Timmy. Good morning, Fing. How are you doing this morning?
Very well.
Okay, so Grace, have you heard the news about JAM building a new headquarters for 6 billion naira?
I beg your pardon?
JAM is building a new headquarters for 6 billion naira.
What does the headquarters do? I am a bit confused. A headquarters of what?
The headquarters of Jam now, where they jam people.
For 6 billion naira. Wow.
Yeah. Well, they're planning to build, so it's not as if they started building. But plans, I'm sure the costing is, and when we say 6 billion, doesn't mean that it's expensive. We're not talking about it being expensive, because the truth of the matter is, construction in this period and for an edifice in a particular location, maybe based on the contractors and whatever they're trying to do for aesthetics and all those things, it would definitely cost a lot. However, our concern is, should that be the priority? Because when you stepped in, we just finished analyzing something. Look at it from this angle now. Are you there, Grace? Are you there?
Yes,
Grace,
I
are you
am.
there?
I'm here.
So now look at it. Samsung donates innovation hub to Yaba Tech, promises to promote ICT. JAM is planning to build a new headquarters, 6 billion naira. Samsung donates innovation hub to Yaba Tech. When you look at the need in the sector, so much is required that even if you put 6 billion, it's like a pinch of salt. And for an institution or an agency that got its revenue from a primary audience, which is the school audience, which is the student market, I think that it's misplacement of priorities. I might be wrong, but I would love to be wrong. Why would we spend time, resources on building an edifice that might become obsolete in relevance in the next few years? There are 6 geopolitical zones. What if they donated 1 billion each to each geopolitical zone where there are schools or universities? Just like Finn said, what if it was a scenario where it was JAM in partnership with Samsung and they are donating innovation hubs? So they step up the, you know what? Moving on.
So another problem that I see is the fact that this entire 6 billion is not even going to be used, for that project. And like, what are our priorities? I feel that we were more focused on what people can see. So we're constructing roads and of course, those things are important as well. But like you're saying, like, there's so much more we could use this money to do. Not we don't need edifices. That's the truth about it. I think last year should have even taught us that we need to start to think beyond these structures, because there are times when these structures will not.
Yeah. What if jam is free for this year? Or what if jam crashes price because they crashed their price? Because JAM returned excess amount to the federal government when the federal government didn't have money. JAM gave federal government money last year. They always return back to the federal government. JAM is a money-making venture. That's the truth about it. Do you understand? When I say money, I'm not saying they're profit-oriented, but the truth is money comes. Because by the time you finish administering your exams and your administrative costs, there's still revenue.
It's so sad.
Anyways, let's move on. A look at Elon Musk's aptitude test results when he was 17 confirms why he's the world's richest man and a genius. I actually stumbled on a documentary, an interview with his mom online, and it kind of had a correlation of the reason why Elon Musk and his siblings are the way they are was because of the quality or the kind of parenting that he had. His parents were adventurous, especially his mom. His mom is the oldest supermodel. At least I hope I'm correct, but on the documentary, she took risk. She put her children in a place of an adventure, so they dared whatever they thought in their mind. All they needed to do was to think or be curious about it, and they had permission to do. And really that speaks of the place, power, and the role of parenting. Is very important. And when I say parenting, not necessarily flesh your biological parents, but parenting, schools are parents to children. The community parents are parents to children. JAMB is a parent to children.
Saw this headline and immediately the JAM thing just came back to mind. Why can't JAM have maybe an aptitude test center or a center for gifted children? Will it be too much for us to have our own form of Mensa developed, because we have a lot of gifted children in Nigeria and they're just wasting away. They just nobody even really cares about them. Their parents are busy out there trying to struggle to keep them alive first. And then we have 6 billion naira being sunk into something that is not going to give much of a legacy.
All right. Enough of the sad dynamics of the headline news. It's just headline. It probably might be over bloated news. You might just be crying. But the truth is, there's always a smoke around this thing. They say there's no smoke without fire, isn't it? All right. So let's talk about the conversation of today. And while we're about to do that, Our Excellency, the safety chick, walked into the building. Good morning, Ugochi Obidegu, safety chick. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. Good morning, Fini, Polu. Good morning, Grace. Nice to be here. Good morning to all our viewers.
Good
And
morning,
good morning,
Good morning
Lieutenant.
and welcome. It's good to have you.
All right. So we're talking about giving the best, but don't stop there, and getting the best. Giving the best and getting the best. What does this really connote to us as professionals, especially those who are in education? Are we giving the best? What is the concept of the best? Where is the best required? What is the place of the best? Can best be unilateral? Can best come as equilibrium? Can best be spread across everyone? Is it possible that best can be multiplied? These are the things that I would like to hear from us this day, because a lot of times people misqualify some of the statements that we make, and we sometimes don't get the result that we desire. So let's start with the word giving the best, or let's start with the topic giving the best. We're coming back to getting the best, but how do we give the best as educators? What does it mean to give the best as individuals? What does it mean to give the best as institutions? I'll start with Fee, I'll come to Grace, and Her Excellency, the safety chief.
Okay. So giving the best
Yeah.
is I interpret giving the best as seeing the need for something, seeing the need for the best first before we can give it, understanding what the best is. People will definitely define what best is in different ways, depending on their worldview, depending on their exposure. But within my sphere, what is my best? My best could be giving getting to getting to school for 7 o'clock because I need to prepare ahead before my students come in. But if I choose to saunter in at 7:30, I haven't given my best. What's the best in the situation I'm in? What's the best required for the roles that I'm playing? What's the best required for my partnership with other teachers? What's the best required for how I look out for my kids, how I look out for the school system itself where I am in? What's the best in preparing the children for the future? What's the best in my mode of delivery? Is it just oh well, doesn't matter? I really can't be bothered. So giving the best is us saying that this is a responsibility that I have. first of all, to myself, as the way I see it is giving the best is a responsibility first to myself, proving to myself and showing to myself that look, you're worthy of the responsibilities that have been put in your hands. Yeah, this has been committed to you to execute, and so you can't afford to let yourself down. And then I go to my next constituency. First of all, in this context now, the students, what is it that would make them set for life? What is it that will make them prepared for life? What is it that would be a legacy that they're taking away from their education journey? How can I give the best to my colleagues? How can we come together and collaborate? How do I share materials with them? Do I share knowledge with them? Do I All of that is what comes together for me as giving the best.
Okay. So let's go straight to Grace. Grace, over to you, Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Rotimi. So when I came in and saw the topic, I saw it as a cycle. So getting the best first, as a professional in my field, how do I get the best in terms of investing in myself? That will translate into what I'm able to give, which will then translate into what I get from my students. So I'm getting the best, investing in myself to give the best and then expect the best from my students. You know how we learned when we started learning computer, when we're younger, and they'll say, they used to tell us garbage in, garbage out. It's what you put in that you will get. So if I don't even have where to draw from, that's from inside of me, there's no way that I can give any best. If there's no best inside, best cannot come out, you know. And then in terms of giving the best, like things rightly said, the best, it varies from person to person. It varies because the needs of the people that we're working with are different. So I'm able to understand first, what does this person need at this time. So I believe that it's also time sensitive. So at this time, what does this person need, and what does excellence mean in this particular scenario? So I think that we need to um be observant enough to understand the needs of the people we're working with, all the stakeholders. What's the best for the parents that I'm working with? What's the best for my colleagues? What's the best for the kids that I work with? When we're able to do that, then we can get the best. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So let's put it this way. Safety check. Share your thoughts on this as well,
Yes, sir.
because I have a question I want to ask everyone as well.
Okay, so I agree with what Fifolo and Grace have rightly mentioned, because the truth is you have got to determine what you want to give. But for it to even be able to give it, you've got to prepare yourself to a level. But what I would just like to add to what they've also mentioned is the fact that even in giving your best, you get to a point where you realize that your best is no longer good enough and you want to take things to the next level. Then the cycle begins again, where you need to learn more, equip yourself more so that you can deliver at a higher level for the next place that you are going to.
Fantastic. I like that. And then before I let you go, I want to ask this question, Safety Chick. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is best the same thing as excellence?
Hmm. How do I say this now? It's best the same thing as excellent. I think I think that it would depend on context. I think that's what I was. I think it would depend on context, right? Excellence is doing things well. And doing things well could be like saying that you're doing things to the best possible ability, right? So for me, I would just say, yeah, it could depend on the context, but to a large extent, they could seem like they are on the same path, because when you're doing something excellently, it's assumed that you're doing it to the best possible, to your best possible ability. However, there are cases where your best, because of your scenario, your context, your environment, is not really excellent. but it is best in that your small context. But when it is now brought in a larger picture, and maybe with across some certain benchmarks, now maybe say relating to other countries or other locations, then you realize that your best is not really excellent. So that's why I said it could vary. Context could determine a lot of things there.
All right, thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask the others this question in a different way. So when we talk about the best, I will talk about giving the best, giving the best. Um, why is it that we sometimes place the assumption, and I've seen that thing happen most times, especially within the education space. We place the assumption on the fact that we know what people need. Why do we find that people really do not go the route of survey, research, questioning, assessment, needs assessment, and the likes? I'm going to start with Finn on this. Why does this happen to be the norm, the reality?
Because usually we interact and interface with other people based on our own needs. So it's like in maybe in relationships, and somebody's love language is quality time. So they automatically assume that everybody likes quality time. That's one. We've our first interface with people is based on our experiences, on our expectations. Secondly, we don't take the needed, we don't put in the needed effort to find out, to query, to inquire, to want to know what is needed, where are the gaps, where do we need to come in, what do we need to plug, what do we need to find out. We just feel, oh, okay, what is generally needed in this regard. Children generally need to be fed, they need to be clothed, and that's it. That's all that is needed. So instead of taking the extra time to go into what is the individual need of every child, and collating that, seeing where we have, aggregating it and seeing where the need really is. So for me, it's two things. First, the way we interface, our preference for how the world and people interface with us. And secondly, not just putting in the effort, just being lackadaisical about it and feel, oh, well, if it works for one, it will work for all.
Thank you so much. Grace, you can step into that as well.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say that it's a matter of conditioning. I was taught a certain way. That's all I know. So that's my worldview. And I think that that's the only way. So if I have not experienced, like Pepin saying, if I haven't experienced anything different, I wouldn't even know that. It's just like me sitting down here and thinking my father's family is the biggest because I haven't traveled anywhere. That song that says "Landlord travel and see." You think where you are is America. It's the best place in the world. To you, it is, but then there's something out there. So if we're not intentional enough to be better. When Safety Chick was talking, she was like, it gets to a point where the best is not even enough. And then I need to push. So if we don't have that hunger to push for more, we wouldn't even know that there's more out there. And then back to what Finn said, I, I want to be treated a certain way. My love language is gifts, and I think that's the world's love language. So I'm there buying gifts and buying gifts, and the person is just feeling like, what's doing this person? This person thinks I'm materialistic. This person doesn't have my time, and things like that. So I think it's important for us to really understand first the people that we're dealing with and what they need. I was having a conversation with my dad, who is a lecturer, and we're talking about how the first few years of a child's life, especially, should just be spent observing, as against pushing in information and all those things that we do as educators. Observe, because this child already has a wiring when they come. So as every human does. So we need to spend that time observing first before we now determine, based on our observation, that this is what this person needs. So that's what I'll just say about it.
I love that. We need to spend time observing. And you know that a lot of times, what makes us not want to do that is two things. we have this pressure of we need to be in a hurry. There's this speed concern. He's already doing stuff. Look at Grace. Grace is on the move. Safety chicks is flying about. And so sometimes people can't sit still. That feeling of being in a desert is as if you're in a dungeon. You're punished. You're suffering. You know that those things are more or less like a limitation in itself to some people. So when you realize that that's the situation, a lot of people do not even want to. And then the assumption is that I already know what people want, you know. So I want to ask Safety Chick, and I know that she's related with this one way or the other, that what about the place of secrecy? Sometimes you know how it is. I have the best kept secret in the world. If I start telling you that, Fee, and what if something, if I start sending survey out to Grace, it's pretty much going to be like Grace will have a clue. We will get an insight, When we in Yoruba, there's a statement. I will say it in Yoruba, but I'll interpret it. They say that how do I put it? I'm sure he knows what I'm about to say. So the thing that when you say it's used like a noun, but then it's also used like not a pronoun, but it's used as a noun, but it's also used as an incident. So if you call someone Marku, do you understand? There is no time
Okay.
Marku will not cool, as in the sense that the person that you call don't die. There's no time, don't die, we not there will still be a time, don't die, will die. So let me take over to you.
So I've not gotten the question you're asking me right now.
Okay, I'm saying that that there is the knack for secrecy. It's easy for me to call you and say Safety Check Alpha, and you start telling me what your plans are. And you start telling me things you're doing. Yes, because one, I'm a coach to you. Two, yes, we built that relationship and friendship. But then, in a
Yeah.
larger perspective, there are certain things some people want to do, and when you look at it, it's not just a good idea; it's a great idea. However, as great as those ideas might be, the footing of an idea becomes a framework to its success. The idea in
Okay.
itself is great, but the footing, and sometimes getting the footing right will require survey, will require pre-information. You need information about
Yes.
what. But you see, people don't mind to take the risk of failing just because of the place of secrecy. How will I
Okay,
start?
I get it now.
I'd rather say
Oh.
something is cooking than, guys, what would you like? I'd rather say behold than, guys, which one would you pick? That kind of thing. So at the place
Yeah.
of secrecy, sacrifice the best landing of frameworks. Tell us about why we do that.
Yeah. Okay, so I think again it's because of this fear that people think, oh, someone is going to steal my idea and run with it, and that fear comes from a number of things. Maybe because that. Let me put it this way: imagine an individual who does not have resources like a multinational. You float this idea and you really want to do it, but you don't have the resources, you don't have the reach, you don't have the partners like a multinational, and you know that once it just gets out, these guys will pick it and run with it, and nobody will even remember that you ever existed. So that kind of a thing would make such a person to be so afraid that you don't even want to announce whether it is cooking. You just want to come and say, behold, like you said. But you see, the challenge with that is there is nothing new under the sun. And no matter what it is that you are trying to do, somebody is also thinking about it at this exact time, maybe in another time zone. So there's somebody is already thinking about or even working on it already. So but what I just want to encourage everyone is, instead of being afraid that, oh, somebody's going to steal your idea, and then because of that you do not test the frameworks, be at peace with the fact that you are not the only one with that idea, and that because you are unique, your implementation is what is going to make you different from any other person who is going to execute that same idea, because you have a different background in your education, your life experiences, the way you grew up, your family upbringing, all those things. some people, even your spirituality, all those things contribute to how you are going to implement an idea. And that's why two people might be doing the exact same thing, but their results are different. Their implementation is radically different, but they are doing the same thing. So be at peace with the fact that you're not the only one. And so that should allow you to, talk with a coach, do your surveys, do what needs to be done so that when you are eventually presenting this into the public, it's really good and it stands the test of time.
Fantastic. I love what you said, because you see, and this thing about fear, sometimes it's because we've not tackled it from the place of questioning and knowledge. You see, there are ways around things. People sometimes, when they want to go public with certain things that they feel is very important and dear to them, and they don't want to risk identity crisis, do you know what they do? They create a document and they post it back to themselves. That's send it as a mail back to yourself, or send it as a mail back to you. So the time signature of when that concept was created, the concept note was created. Once you document a concept note about the idea, mail it back to you. In fact, preferably do a dispatch back to you so that you receive it at a particular day. So that by the time you're not talking about patenting, copywriting, trademarking, you have a reference point, not just the fact that it was your idea and then you paid for patent and then you have an issue with copywriting, but you can show that at this point in time, because that's what the court will recognize. At this point in time, this was mine. And then there's a place of non-disclosure agreement. And of course, sometimes go public with your intention, even though you have not come to execute yet. So press conference is not only when you've done something. Press conference can be that you are about to do something. So safety can say that, you know what, I'm starting a safety tribe for African safety consciousness. Therefore, I am doing a press conference. When will you start? Well, we're working at one of the things we're going to do is we're going to do research. We're going to ask what people need. We're going to carry out surveys for the greater part of this year. And then we'll come back and, resolve a framework that will now build the identity in 2022. Now, people will be wondering why. There's a reason. It's trying to protect the idea in the doing, not in the keeping. But then anybody that now starts can easily say that, well, I saw someone pronounce something online in the national dailies. Make sure it's a national daily, in the national daily. And I think this person really is the first move on this matter, and that's how things are done, and in giving the best, I want to take us to another scenario, and then we'll quickly get to getting the best. I recall that there was an international speaker I was working with and I was speaking to sometime many years ago, and I invited him for something. You know what he told me? After accepting the invitation and we talked about the pricing and all that, he said, tell me 3 things you want your audience to go away with. And I'm like, you're the speaker now. The topic is clear. My mind is that, some people don't even want to tell you the topic of what they just say, I'm coming to speak. What are you speaking on? Don't worry. The mystery behind the ignorance of what you're talking about heightens the expectation and probably will make the delivery great. And I've come to realize in the past few years, does not change. In fact, it worsens it, because now you will do more of trying to prepare the ground. If you have 15-20 minutes to talk, you use your 7 to 9 minutes to introduce your content. So in some cases, there's nothing wrong. Just like in faith-based institution, if you know you are going to church to learn about giving on Sunday, your mind is prepared, as opposed to you are just going to hear what God has to say. And then it's until when you are hearing God saying it, say, this is what God has said. That's what I'm trying to say. So sometimes that preparatory ground, and I said 2-3 things you want your audience to, and when I said that, that became a big tool for him to give his best. You know why? He went straight to the direction of what my expectations were. And when we finished, he asked the same question. Did this meet up with expectation? And I was saying yes. So we must always be audience focused and audience centric. Now let's get to the getting the best. How do we get the best out of life? And I want you to make it practical. How do you normally get your best out of life? So I'm going to start with Grace. I'm going to Fee. Then I'm coming to Safety Chick. Grace.
Okay, sorry, before I respond to that, let me just touch a bit on, what you just said about the whole fear thing. I think that when we stay at thinking from a place of scarcity, that's where the big problem is. But if we have that abundance mindset to understand that even if I have the same idea with another person, do you know how many people are there in the world? Like, well, many, the number of people that need what I have, so our audiences are different, the way we're executing is different, everything. And then there was one thing, Mr. Rotimi, when I started working on that book, that you told me, you said you can never go wrong with your story. And that's the truth about it. Like, your story is your story, your experiences are your own experiences. There's no my story can never sound like another person's own. So there's a fingerprint that I put on what I do that makes it different from what any other person is doing, plus everything that you people have now said. So to getting to giving the wait, oh, did you say giving the best or getting the best? Which one?
Get the best.
Okay, getting the
Get
best.
the
How
best.
I get the best? The first thing the first thing that comes to mind for me, like practically, is looking for the best. I totally understand and value the place of people in my life. I know that all I know is not all there is to know. So I go to where the knowledge is. I'm constantly seeking, people that know better, people that have more exposure, people that have, greater experiences than me that I can tap from. Because I don't have, how many years am I going to live in this life that I want to experience everything? Or I want to, the hustling is not inside this case. So I look out for Isaac Newton, if I've seen any further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants, that have gone ahead of me. So that's what I do for me, getting the best. That would be my number one way that I do that. So I invest my time, effort, and resources looking for and getting the people that will guide me along the journey. So that would be my, number one, and other things, but that would be like primary. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And of course, Fee.
For me, the first thing to get the best is I expect the best. So when I expect the best, I go all out to have my expectation met. Just like you said about the speaker that asked, "What are your expectations?" It was easy for him to narrow down and hit pinpoint, making the best use of resources of at his disposal, time and all of that. So for me, it's the expectation. I expect to get the best in any experience I'm going through, no matter how minute the experience might look, no matter how inconsequential it might look. So I'm going into maybe I'm going out for field trip with the kids, and I expect that this is not a field trip only for the children to learn about biodiversity. This is also an experience for me to learn about I expect to see the interaction between nature and man and all the dynamics that come into it. And so going there, getting to on the field trip, there is something I'm looking forward to. There is something I'm looking to get. There are targeted experiences that I'm looking for. And the moment I start citing things that look like, oh, this is in line with my expectation, then I'm able to draw it on that and then get the best from that experience.
Thank you so much. And of course, safety check.
Okay, so I'll say I'll just add to what they've also mentioned. So for me, when I want to get the best at anything, I think about it. What exactly do I want? Then I visualize how the end is going to be. Then I write. I create a plan. So I don't just leave it as, oh, this is what I want. I'll break it down into steps. What are the steps that will lead me to this thing? Who are the people I need to work with? What tools do I need to have? How are the different ways that this can happen, so that I can see at a glance the options available to me, and then I start consciously working towards it. What I find is that when we break down what we want, into a plan, into different steps and all that, it makes it easy, because what we have done in that writing process, subconsciously we have told our mind. So somehow, even if you never get to see that piece of paper you wrote that thing on again, you are going to find yourself walking in that direction. I don't know, it just does something to your mind because you thought about it and you wrote about it, so it sort of begins to move you in that direction. So as we think about it, oh, I want the best in this area, you visualize it. What does best mean? Because best means different things to different people. So what does best mean in this context? Then walk backwards. What are the steps? What are the things that need to be done to make this happen? Who do I need to work with? How? What are the other options? Because there are different ways to achieve a particular best. So when you've identified those things, and you don't need to write an essay, it can just be bullet points here and there, it's helpful, and you just see yourself begin to work in that direction. And then, of course, take action, because it's not enough to just write and imagine and then you don't do anything. You've got to take action to make it come alive.
Thank you so much. As we bring the show to a close and as we end the first week of March, I need you to realize that look at giving the best into perspective. Giving is the voice. Getting is the hands. When you give when you give the best, it's voicing out expression. It's the voice. You speak by giving. You speak through the works of your hand, the works of your heart, the works of your pursuit and platforms. However, getting has to do with the hands. So many people have been trained to do something with their voice, which is the giving their best, but little people have been empowered in getting the best. And I'm sure sometimes you see that getting the best comes as a technique, not just as a knowledge. And so we must begin to tell ourselves as educators, as professionals, and as anybody out there, corporate individual entrepreneurs as well, we need to train our hands to receive the best. That's how we get the best. And one of the ways to receive the best is to find ourselves in alignment and positioning. Sometimes when the calabash is turned upside down, even when you pour water on it, it's not going to retain water. Do you understand? It's not going to retain water. So you must learn how to restructure your hands to receive and get the best. And in doing that, you must work on your being. You must work on your being. Very, very important. You must audit your doing, because it is your being and your doing that produces your having. And so as we end this show this week, give the best, because to get the best, you require giving the best. And when you are consistent giving the best, ultimately, as you position yourself in alignment, you begin to get the best. Is that fine? A lot of people need to put themselves out there. They need to put their works out there. They need to put their thoughts out there. Those are practical ways of getting the best. They need to create a bold claim to what they do. They need to show proof of result. Those are ways of getting the best. And let me tell you, you need to listen to the Good Morning Education Show every day. That is a way to get the best. And of course, when you follow Finn, when you follow Grace, when you follow Ugochi, you follow Titi, you follow KK, you follow Jude, you follow Eben, you follow everyone, you follow Rhoda, you follow myself. That is practical ways of getting the best. I wish you the best of the weekend as we end the show today. It's been a great time, guys. Has it been a great time? Has it been a great time?
Yes, it has.
It's been a really good.
Thank you. So at this point in time, we'll do the regular and the usual as we wish our audience the best. So over to you, ladies.
It's always a great time on the Good Morning Education Show.
Fantastic. Take care of yourself. See you. Bye.
Bye.